Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. What you see here now is basically just my dirty table from pouring. So I'm not gonna do a pour today. Keep tuned because I want to do a tutorial and give you an idea about FluidArt. If you're a total newbie and have never done anything or seen any beginner's video, make sure to after this go to the basic playlist and have a look at knowledge is power, the basic techniques and pouring, medium, mixing, all these kind of important things. Also, just don't buy anything. Have a look at the shopping list because you're just gonna buy stuff double, etc. Why do I want to do this? I want to do this tutorial because I'm really a bit concerned about all the information that is flying around in the web in groups between artists, and there is some kind of myth or magic recipes and this has to be like that or that, but because it's spreading so widely there is no information why it should be like that or if it's true. So there is really things where I'm getting a little bit upset because people have problems, they get frustrated, etc. and they don't know why. So the first thing I believe people should get is knowledge. Of course, a big part is fun also, but yeah, you wouldn't start cooking just blindly and throw pepper and salt and sugar in a cake, but you would try to get some information of how to make a cake. Okay, so this is a little summary and you can just listen to this like an audiobook, so lean back, do something else. You can also stay with me here in the camera. Eventually I'm gonna grab a thing or two, but not too much, and now I'm gonna give it a go. So FluidArt is not as easy as it might seem. It's diluting acrylic paint with pouring medium and water to get the right consistency that allows the paint to move freely over a surface. There's various additives and different effects used with different tools and air to manipulate it and tilting and all this kind of thing. So a lot of confusion is around what do I have to use and why and how much, and it can get rather expensive because even the cheaper things used as pouring medium are still costly if they're used in a big amount, like it's often advised. And also paint, there's fluid paint, hard body, soft body. It's just expensive. It's not like making a painting. You need way more. Okay, what do I want to start with? Surfaces and preparation. You can pour on many things, basically whatever you find. Canvas, MDF board, tiles, CDs, vinyl record, boxes, even on glass. The only thing is that you need to prepare the surface eventually. So you could gesso it if necessary, but the golden rule is if you're not sure about the surface you're pouring on, like a tile eventually, just clean it off with alcohol. That's very important. If you need to sand it down, if it's very slippery, you can do that. Use gesso or primer. There's also a difference in that. Gesso is to seal very open surfaces like canvases, and primer is to give some grip to very non-slippery surfaces. You can mix your paint and store it quite a while in a container, but have a lid or some plastic that you can get the lid off. And I wouldn't put silicone in it because you never know which methods you're gonna use and it's gonna mix in a lot. If you check it when you use it, you need to check it if it's still the right consistency or if it's a little bit dry, and then eventually add a little bit of water. I do keep my paint really long, weeks, and therefore I use diluted or cooked water. Distilled water. So the big thing this look of FluidArt has is cells, right? So that's something that people are really looking for, and they start and they don't have it. they don't get it, they get frustrated, etc. So the thing is, do you know how cells are made? Cells are created by silicone. Do I have any? Yes. I buy it pure online. It's basically oil. It's nothing else, but don't use baby oil or cooking oil or anything like that. And there's also Dimethicone. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's in most of the hair serum products that you can get for a few euros in a drugstore. I just grabbed one for you. So this is from a Dutch drugstore. It's an hair serum. You see, it's not this kind of watery spray. And the second ingredient is Dimethicone. It's also basically very nice smelly, but it's, I don't know, no, it doesn't come out. It's like an oily, a little bit thicker, which also helps with that. And then your painting smells good. So that's how cells come. There's also other effects with lacing, etc. But the look most people go for comes from silicone. So here are some rather big cells, if you want to see how I made this. And what are cells? What are cells and what are not cells? And how can they not happen? If you drop tons of silicone in your paint, you can do it as good as you want, you will not get cells. Why? Because the core thing for cells is consistency of your paint. So that's really the opposite than a lot of people think. It's not the silicone. You can have a drop or two in your paint and you get beautiful cells. Too much spoils your mixtures and creates holes, uneven and cracked surfaces while drying. So like I said, cells depend on the consistency. If it's too thin, the silicone will rise to the top very quickly and sit on it without making a tunnel through the paint and give the cell look. If it's too thick, the silicone will be trapped under the lowest layer of your paint and just not come to the top either and give no effect. Also, you have cells depending on the right amount of paint used. If you have a little, you have to tilt too much and you don't only get a zigzag pattern, but you also break up the existing cells. You probably had that if you have problems with painting. It's all ziggy, zaggy, ziggy, zaggy and no cells. So you eventually didn't have enough paint and possibly it was too thick. You also should not tilt very quick because that's the same problem. Do it calm from one side to another, not back, forth, up and down, and etc. Stirring in the silicone in the paint a lot or a little also has some impact. Stirring in a lot will create smaller cells than stirring up 2 or 3 times. Logical, because you stir in the oil like an emulsion, and the water and the oil mix much more together. Another very big tip I give is to torch before you tilt. Meaning use a torch to pull up the silicone to the top and then that already gives you a few cells, and then you move it. Then you have these cells that you had and you will make them bigger and they expand when you tilt. So if you have a cell like that and you tilt, it goes in all directions with you as long as you have enough paint and they get bigger. A torch is not mandatory as the majority of the silicone will also come to the top without help, but it has a beneficial effect. Alternative is a heat gun. I don't use hair dryers or advise it because it holds the risk that you blow around the paint and that it starts drying, and it needs to dry evenly and slow. Now, another favorite topic aside from cells is pouring medium. Okay, the word pouring medium is the original name for one of the additives we used for FluidArt. It's for example written what's on the Liquitex pouring medium. I don't have it. It was from the beginning from Bösner or Vallejo, and it's really expensive. They are shelf ready to go pouring mediums. So then the community started to experiment what alternatives there are. So there are other pourings like FluidArt or glue, like a PVA water-based transparent glue. There's GAC 800, things like that. So these words are interchangeable. You don't need glue, FluidArt, and everything. Like I said, if you are still on the shopping way, don't do it. It's really not necessary. But all these things are different things. Because what people think the FluidArt is depending on these pouring mediums, it's not. The pouring medium's real purpose is to keep the pigment connection together. So your paint is pigments held by a binder, and I have a video on that, knowledge is power. And when you stretch it by water, it will break. Okay, the connection breaks. And pouring medium actually is additional binder that it can be elastic and stretch more. Okay, so the recipe has nothing to do with making cells or pattern. I advise 30% pouring medium because that's simply for that purpose sufficient. There's no need to do 50-50 or more. It's really a financial question, of course. Not every glue is the same. Any transparent water-based glue is fine. Only if you look for more than just a hobby or friend or family gift or for years, you should use something archival like bookbinder's glue. Working with water only is possible, but as described about the pigment connection, it will break. It's fine if you just look for fun or anything, and you will also not see it immediately. It's after some years, or if it's in the sun or different environment, or it dries weird or things like that. So one of the big misperceptions is that you get told from somebody the perfect recipe. It's really almost like mythology, and that makes me really crazy. No one can tell you. Imagine you have heavy body acrylic. You need much more water or pouring medium to get the right consistency. Totally opposite with liquid acrylic. If you add the same amount of water, you will have way too thin. And even different brands do that. So these are two very important things: the silicone, the consistency, and the pouring medium. That's really to my heart that people get educated about that. And please have a look at the basic knowledge playlist for more videos on that. Now I want to talk after the pour: drying, cleaning, varnishing. If your painting has hole or cracks or paint missing at the side, it comes back to the consistency, like I said. But any other cause could be drying in unevenly due to too much silicone. You used a torch or heat gun too close and you basically burned it. Your room has a temperature problem, humidity, and sometimes it's also just that if you use different brands together, they don't like each other. Very rarely the case, but could be a thing. Also, very important, your painting is not dry the next day and also not after 3 days. Even if you touch it and it feels fine, it's not. It's still breathing from underneath and evaporating moist. It takes 3 weeks and then you're ready to clean it and to varnish. That's called curing. You have to remove the silicone if you used any. It's like a frying pan with oil on top. That's simply what it is. Acrylics is plastic, silicone is oil. There are many different ways. I'm not a fan of cornstarch, as it sticks to the little air bubble holes if you have them, and it leaves white residue, and it's a biological product. So what do I use? I don't think baby wipes is sufficient. Same what I said with a frying pan. Alcohol thinned down is a good first step, but also risky as some paints, it has a negative impact, it bleeds. Be sure it's completely cured. Wash it with dishwater and warm water. Really, I have a 20 seconds video on that eventually, with a sponge, warm water and soap, and that's all you need. Apply the first layer of varnish very thin, and you can even thin down your varnish with 10% water. Just then it dries even slower. You can use a brush or a sponge or a cloth. I use makeup silicone pads. That's just the best invention ever. There's also spray varnish, and it's absolutely not mandatory to varnish. It's just a protection and for the shine of the colors, but again, acrylics is plastics, it's not so sensitive. If you don't like your pour, you have two options. Either you wash it off immediately and just use the canvas again, or if it's already in the process of drying, you will need to wait the same curing process. Clean it, and normally everything what you would do before, eventually even sand it down a little bit, and then you can go again. So now I'm just gonna give you a few words like basic techniques. I have a video with the 4 basic techniques where I show them, and also one for the 3 base. Part 2 is 3 basic techniques. You can watch those, then you have an idea how things work. And so there is the basic ones that are a dirty pour, a flip cup, and a puddle pour. The next level is more like a swipe with multiple flip cups, a push and pull, pours with a negative space, meaning a visible main color on the surface and just a partial pour on it, a swirl or so-called tree ring pour, and combinations of all of them. And people keep inventing, using all kinds of tools they have in the house, like lazy suits, strings, balloons, straws, hammers, whatever you like. You can choose if you like silicone or not, which colors. There is basically no, and the only thing, yeah, like I said, consistency, silicone, pouring, medium, drying, curing, and eventually you should really have a look at the color wheel, which colors don't go well together, because that's eventually a problem if you do pours that turn out muddy. Yeah, so that's already it, and like I said, more on the basic playlist on each of these topics. I hope you like it, and I hope to see you back soon. Please click subscribe and click the bell, then I keep you updated on all the experiments and videos I do. And I hope to see you back soon.